for Jefferson County.
Thank you. Well, thank you all for being here. This was not the news we wanted to hear. I would like to join with law enforcement and the community to offer our condolences to Jessica's family and her friends. It's a tragedy. I am so impressed with not only the community and their response, but law enforcement getting together. So many jurisdictions coming together, both state, local, and federal. They've done a wonderful job, and they're going to continue to do a wonderful job because they are on a mission. Now, I recognize some of you. I know some of you. Don't know all of you. And here's what I got to say. The most important thing that we can do now, our priority now, is the investigation, the apprehension, and the prosecution of the person that did this. Bringing the person to justice. So as a result, we will not be talking to you. We will not be answering any questions, because the investigation and bringing this, whoever it is, to justice is the priority, and I know you understand that. I know you understand that. So I want to thank you for that, and that's all I have to say.
After the announcement of the press conference today, there's a question that several times throughout the week we've been talking about resources, the number of agencies that we've had, the number of officers that have been deployed, some of the systems that we have in place. We've referenced the command post several times. The question was, what does that look like? And for obvious reasons, with the attention that it's got and the number of reporters and cameras, we can't take you inside and show that to you. But we are working to take a picture that obviously would not disclose any information that could hinder the investigation. That photograph will be posted by the Westminster Police Department on our Twitter and our Facebook account. We hope to have that up and available for you as soon as possible. As Dave said earlier, we are available to ask or answer a few questions, but ask again that you recognize the limit that we have in answering questions regarding the investigation. At this time, I'll take some questions.
Investigator Matherosa, earlier this week you said the community should not be concerned that you have someone out there abducting children. Do you still stand by that statement?
The question was posed in regards to the abduction, and at that time, we had limited information. And the investigation and the number of agencies, the number of investigators and detectives are working tirelessly. They're working around the clock to both identify who's responsible for the disappearance of Jessica, as well as that future prosecution. We, again, need to engage that community, and we want them to recognize the significant role that they play. We want parents to continue to engage their children in safety messages, as they've been doing for the last several weeks and months prior. We want that to continue. We also recognize that you are familiar with your neighborhood. You'll recognize when something is out of place, when something seems odd or suspicious. We ask that you call immediately and report that information to us.
Trevor, perhaps a question.
Peter.
Can you talk about how the body was identified? Was it DNA, dental records, anything like that?
The Colorado Bureau of Investigations, obviously a forensic lab performing some of that testing, did utilize DNA. That's the only information that we can discuss. Obviously, that is part of the ongoing investigation, and we're very limited in the information that we can discuss.
Without disclosing any of the evidence that's been collected, have the conditions of the crimes...
Those are tools that we're allowed to use in the investigation that we're conducting, and multiple investigations involving the federal law enforcement agencies, but we don't comment about that publicly.
have the details of the crime scene, have the details of the specific evidence collected been entered into the FBI's VICAP system yet? And if so, have there been any hits on any similarities between any other unsolved crimes?
We haven't disclosed or discussed any evidentiary information. Throughout the investigation, there's been question about items that have been collected. We have notified and informed the public that that is a standard practice. We recognize that there's going to be a substantial number of items that are collected. That's a safety precaution. We want to make sure until we can rule those out or identify if they have any relevance to the investigation that we will collect those.
Perhaps,
Stan.
I'm not asking about the actual evidence. Are you using the FBI's VICAP database to analyze this crime scene and compare it to others of unsolved crimes?
We're not willing to share that information. Stan?
Is there a concern that local schools might be a target for this predator, and will there be more enforcement in those areas?
The Jefferson County School District has been part of this and a cooperative agency in this investigation since the reported disappearance. They continue to do that. That school district is engaging their parents. They have procedures that they're working. We discussed earlier in the week that a lockout, that is a common practice or procedure. That was set in place because of the number of detectives and resources that were working in the community. Law enforcement will continue to work with the school district.
Trevor, your reaction to what the officers found and had to deal with, and the same for you, Dave, knowing that both of you have been in this profession for a very, very long time, as have the people who've been working this case tirelessly for the last 8 days. This must have been hard.
That's a difficult question to answer. Every one of the men and women, law enforcement, the support staff, every one of us have a mother and a father, sons and daughters, nieces, nephews. Obviously, knowing that we're looking for somebody who has harmed a 10-year-old child, that's hard to deal with. And that focuses every one of those investigators, every one of those detectives. That's the tireless work that they have done for the last 7 days. And that's the tireless work that will go until we find who's responsible for this.
Has the Cody, Wyoming case been ruled out as any possible link?
As far as we know, there's no connection between the Cody, Wyoming case and the case that's currently being investigated here in Westminster.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear your question.
The manner in which Jessica's body was found, what does that say about the man that we're looking for?
It's something we're not going to discuss because we don't want to give up anything that would be used later for prosecution.
Can you tell us
I
why?
think I apologize. Just to add to that is the FBI's behavioral analysis unit and the information that Dave gave yesterday about that critical piece that every one of our community members plays in looking for those distinct behavior changes. Dave had talked yesterday about several of those that may have occurred days before and the days since her disappearance. And we would continue to ask the community to look at your coworkers, at your neighbors, at friends, and unfortunately, likely a family member that you wouldn't suspect.
Given how rare total stranger abductions are, can you tell the public why you're so confident that this is the case of stranger abduction and murder here? Because that's what the community wants to know. Do we know for sure that this is somebody out there who's a predator of kids unknown to them?
We can only rule out facts as they come into us and the way the investigation's proceeding. We've eliminated the family and we're looking for an abductor at this point.
So
Anastasia, last question.
I have a twofold question, really. What is the future of this investigation moving forward in terms of how many searchers will you have, going through Saturday, Sunday, Monday? What are we looking for? And then the other one is, should the parents in this area be concerned? Should the parents be watching their kids? Should the parents be walking their kids to school when ordinarily they would let them walk?
We want to reiterate that message that the community is such a significant role in this, and making those connections with their children, talking about, again, the safety messages that they've already engaged, working with law enforcement. The detectives that have worked this are going to continue to work it tirelessly. It's as important for us to identify who this person is, again, to make our community safe.
We want the community engaged and both aware of what's occurred and what they can benefit by educating their children about what to stay away from.
What's next for the investigators?
The team of investigators, the tools and resources are going to continue. As the chief mentioned, the focus was a search for Jessica. we now know that focus is a mission to identify who's responsible and bring justice for Jessica. So all of the tools and resources, many of which have not been discussed and will continue not to be discussed, those are going to be used. We will utilize, we'll call on whatever resources we see are necessary, and again, thank those agencies, those law enforcement partners we have, local, federal, state. They continue to offer the support and every asset they have available to continue this investigation. Thank you.
This will be our last question. We are following leads that are provided to us by the public, and we will not rest until this person's caught. Thank you for your time.